Real talk, real is talk. Real talk is talking real cheap. And the rest is just squawk, squawk, cheep, cheep. Two friends talking about everything they trying to comprehend.